Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a whirlwind return visit to Washington. The Ukrainian leader continues his efforts to shore up U.S. support for his country. He met with Republican and Democratic leaders at the Capitol, assuring them that Ukraine is winning the war against Russia. Zelensky spoke to military personnel at the Pentagon and will also meet with U.S. President Joe Biden at the White House before leaving later tonight for his visit to Canada. Well, back now to our top story. India has suspended visa processing in Canada as tensions between the two countries continues to escalate. Let's check in with CP24's Eden Debebe with the latest on this. Eden.
We've been talking to a lot of people today, Jamie, affected by this news. And to learn a little bit more about what could potentially be coming in the future, we're joined by Stephanie Carvin, an associate professor with Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs. Stephanie, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I want to ask you some of the questions that a lot of the people behind me here are asking me, which is why is India specifically bringing this issue that until now has been put more towards government officials, diplomats, to now the people, the residents of Canada and India?
Regrettably, I think this is just an escalation tactic by the Modi government. They want Canadians to know, not just the government to know, just how upset they are at the accusations that have been leveled. But we've also seen similar tactics before involving visas or visa issues. If everyone remembers back when there was a Saudi spat, I believe back in 2018, it was one of the first things they did was bring all of their citizens back. In this particular case, we're seeing Canadians who are no longer being able to go. So this is increasingly, visas are increasingly being weaponized in these diplomatic disputes.
And can we expect something like this to be retaliated by Canada, potentially Indian visas being rejected by Canada, or is that something that we typically haven't seen in the past?
The Canadian policy generally is not to escalate, right? I don't think it's because we're just a nice country. I just think that Canada doesn't see any benefit in making an already difficult situation worse. So I'm not expecting any visa retaliation against India or Indian citizens. One thing where they may be affected is that we are starting to see a drawdown of Canadian diplomats in India right now, both for safety purposes. There's concerns about the safety of Canadian diplomats in India right now, and also because it does appear that India wants Canada to reduce its diplomatic presence. That may mean there are fewer individuals to process visas of Indian students, for example, that want to come to Canada to study.
So clearly this is going to have a lot of widespread implications over quite some time. You yourself called it an escalation. So my next question for you is, how far could you think we could see this go from measures not only from India and Canada, but from other ally members of the Five Eyes?
In the case of India, it's not clear. I think Mr. Modi is not only determined to show his outrage to Canadians, I think he wants the world to see it too. And in this sense, he may be willing to make Canada something of a scapegoat. So we may see something like, what we've seen from other countries in the past, say, for example, both China and Saudi Arabia have suddenly said that they no longer recognize Canadian degrees when they're upset. And India may do the same, which would hurt tens of thousands of Indian students in the country. With regards to Canada's allies, I think they're trying to walk a very difficult path. As everyone knows, countries like the United States, Australia, or organizations like the EU have been turning to India as a way to balance China, particularly in the Indo-Pacific, and for their trade relations. And so I think they don't want to risk upsetting Modi. And so while none of our allies have actually disputed the events or the account that Trudeau has given, we're not seeing the kind of strong support we did, say, during the episode of the two Michaels, which lasted for about almost 3 years.
So what do you think needs to happen to actually get that strong show of support? And why do you think that Trudeau would decide to put this information out there before providing any evidence?
So really, I think it comes down to two things. It's not clear to me what the Canadian government can do at this time other than quiet backdoor diplomacy. I think the policy of not escalating is smart. It's not going to benefit Canada, I think, to try and make matters worse. and at the same time, we need to go to our allies and basically say that, we need your help. If you could make it clear to Mr. Modi that he is not going to benefit by worsening relations, that would be very useful. And hopefully those discussions are actually coming going forward. And sorry, the second part of your question was?
Just in relation to how far things could go here, but you've answered that really well yourself. Stephanie Carvin is, again, associate professor with Carleton University. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for that insight.
Thanks for having me on.